Hello, and welcome to Allegheny County Library's Let's Get Lit. This is where we talk about exciting titles so you, our patrons, can know what to read next. We will be talking about hot new titles to the library and also still burning titles, which may be older but are ones we have loved. Let's Get Lit is available in video format on the ACLS YouTube as well as in podcast format on Apple, Google, and Spotify, so you can subscribe for updates when we release new episodes. Let's Get Lit will be bi-monthly, and we would love your feedback as we do this. Contact information will be in the description as well as at the end of the episode. Any titles mentioned will have links to our catalog in the description as well. Now, let's get lit.
Hi, I'm Allie.
I'm Chang.
I'm Liz.
And today we are going to be helping you with some of your bingo board prompts for the summer reading. If you haven't checked in to a branch to get your bingo board, please do. You can finish it and then be entered into our grand prize drawings at the end of summer. So feel free to drop in and get your tote bag for the summer, see what events we're having. It's going to be a blast. Yeah, but today we're going to help out with some of those bingo prompts, and Liz is going to share with us some things to look out for the fall as well. One of the bingo prompts is a book that is over 200 pages.
All right. This book is 300 pages, I believe.
Okay.
It's called Those Across the River, and it's by one of my favorite authors right now, Christopher Pullman. I binged on his stuff after reading and loving The Black-Tongued Thief this year.
This is a horror writer.
This is a horror writer. He also does fantasy.
Okay.
He does life. Black-Tongued Thief has a lot of fantasy in it. It's kind of lighter comedy. But this is definitely horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a couple who move into an inherited plantation home in the Deep South shortly after the Civil War. There are many rumors about the atrocities committed by the plantation owner, and the memories of those times have not been forgotten by those across the river. I won't say too much about it, like the plot, because there's a lot that you should go in not knowing, but I love the way that it turns things on its head from familiar tropes. The horrors are slowly uncovered and reckoned with in this book. It's got a small town pulling up tensions and suspicions and a lot of horrible things committed in the past that happen to be related to those committed those crimes have to face. And it's incredibly violent and bloody, but if you like supernatural stuff, I would say go for this.
I would say in the same vein, When the Reckoning Comes, I read that this year, and it is about a wedding that happens on a plantation. The ghosts that come and,
I think I heard
get
about
justice.
that.
I told you about it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar. Yeah, I told you about it. Well, I unintentionally kind of a summer theme. Coming in around 400 pages is The Last True Pellets of the Sea by Julia Drake. This is a YA book, but I think anyone of any age could read it. It is absolutely fantastic about a young girl. She is quite troubled after her brother attempts to commit suicide, and her family is trying to focus on her brother. She gets kind of sent to a family member off the coast of Maine to live there for the summer and kind of just figure out why she is so self-absorbed in these moments. So she meets with some friends there, but of course it is about her really reflecting on herself and finding out who she is and coming to terms with, a lot of different aspects and family dynamics in her life. There is an ending in this that is really powerful, and it can be taken different ways depending on how you want to read it. Some people take it as supernatural, some people don't. I took it quite literally, but it is very powerful because, her life ends up being on the line, essentially. So it's a fantastic book. I read it in one sitting. I could not put it down. Just one of those stories that just the words feel magical. It doesn't necessarily have magic, but they just feel magical, and you feel like you're there and you're living the life with the characters.
So we're going to go to water on the cover?
Yes, it has water on the cover.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say this was the best thing I've read in a long time and the best experience reading I've had. I was just sitting on my porch, opened this up, and I felt good for the first time in a long time reading a book.
I can't imagine why you're saying.
I felt like summer was finally here, more or
Oh,
less.
yeah.
And that was when I was reading The Nice House on the Lake, Volume 1 by James Tinian IV. I mentioned this in an earlier episode because I had read the first few issues, but I dropped it because I wanted to sort of focus on it when it was collected because there's so many characters.
So it's a graphic novel?
It's a comic, yeah.
Okay.
It completely delivered after waiting for so long for it to be collected. About mutual acquaintances who are invited to a secluded cabin one summer and come to realize their host does not intend for them to leave ever again. Combination of the show Lost, like the best parts of it, not the later parts, with iconography and puzzles to uncover, combined with the tense single location anxiety of the movie The Invitation by Karen Kusama. It's very smart and affecting in its depiction of time, straining relationships, and making the best of what you've been given, even though things outside the area where they're being contained may be in a worse state than where they are.
If you're talking about graphic novels, what about the Heartstopper?
Have not read it yet.
Okay, so we've had a lot of interest in that.
Yeah.
I love them. I've been following them because they were web comics before they were ever published.
Okay.
And the show came out. The show's fantastic. They are very wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
They are so incredibly wholesome. They're really easy to read. The artwork is cute. It's beautiful. The author is very much into connecting with the fans of the series. And she has a whole backlog of actual novels. There's actually a novel that is based around a character within the series.
Oh, great.
They're so good.
I've asked Marilyn to order this because I've had to
Yeah.
get some of them from downstate. So they'll be coming to the library, so look for them.
Yeah, I think they're in the system now.
Yeah.
Volumes 1 through 3, and they're available in different counties too. So
I would say they're fantastic for people who've never read graphic novels before. And
great introduction.
honestly, graphic novels are so great. I know so many people are hesitant to pick them up. They think they're for teens, they're for kids. No, they're fantastic. Some of my favorite things to read.
yeah,
You sit down and it's like getting a movie and a book all in one.
yeah, don't neglect it because you think it's childish or whatever. Because
Yeah.
there's so much to offer. It's not a genre. It's a medium.
Yeah.
You know, you can't dismiss it just because there's pictures.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
some of the
there's-
smartest writing accompanying those pictures
Yeah.
as well.
And I would say they're thick, but don't be put off by them because you'll fly through them. They're so
Yeah, I
good.
looked through one the other day.
I have spent a gross amount of money on special editions of Heartstopper.
Oh, really?
Wanted to, yes. I don't want to talk about it. We actually read this last year for the summer book club, but it has stuck with me. It was one of the best books that I read last year, and it's The Night Swim by Megan Golding. She has quickly become one of my favorite authors in general. Just her writing is, she writes about pretty serious topics. She does mystery thrillers. The Night Swim is about a woman who's running a podcast, and she goes to watch a trial and report on a trial about a girl who has been sexually abused, and how her, I guess, her abuser is also there. But at the same time, she is meeting with someone who has information about a case, a very similar case that happened years and years before that, and the mysterious person is like leaving her all these tips. So while she's running this podcast, she is also trying to solve this mystery of this town that happened years and years ago. It is so very good. I don't know anyone who has read it who hasn't loved it. It's great too because it has a podcast feel. If you listen to the audiobook, there are like clips of the podcast type thing, and it is just absolutely fantastic. It obviously is quite serious in subject matter and does talk a lot about victims and abusers and who believes who in those situations and how that happens in the court system. So just on the edge of your seat, just trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
So for reads, beach with water, I guess I can just Elin Hildebrand.
Oh yeah, she
I
always has
say it's
speech.
Elin. I believe they say it's Ellen, but
Mm.
another book that she wrote was 28 Summers. I suggested it to someone, and they loved it. It's
She's a popular author.
very popular.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone who ever comes in complaining about her
No,
books.
no.
One word title. I thought this one was well, first I thought it was hard, and then I got on my Goodreads, and there was 30 titles that immediately popped up.
Yeah, I tended to give more, for whatever reason, I watch more than read with one word
Oh,
titles.
yeah.
And one that just came out recently is a movie called Benedetta. A woman who, in medieval times, gets sold to the church, and she starts having stigmata manifest in her body. And she also, at the same time, develops a relationship with another nun in the church. And so there's a conflicting force of the church trying to tamp down on her relationship, but also trying to embrace her stigmata and interpret that as signs from God. So to see the power structure of the church coming up against the will of two women fighting against the system, with a lot of really trenchant insights into like society at that time, and like how contradictory some of the rules are that the church is trying to enforce, and then the power abuse by those who were in a position to do so. It's very provocative. It almost got an X rating because of sexual stuff in it. It has unflinching violence. And this is the director who did Total Recall, Basic Instinct, RoboCop. Anyone who's familiar with his work will know what to expect going into one of his movies, because they're not sanitized. They're very hold a mirror up to some of the worst aspects of society, and you're not going to like what you see. But it tells a great story as well, and the acting is incredible. I say all that, to lead you into not, knowing what you're going to get, but it doesn't have the gratuitous sort of sex and violence that his normal stuff does. It's available on DVD, and I would say do not watch it with your kids.
Well, Hide by Kirsten White. I haven't read this yet. I'm going to be reading this month. This is a thriller that takes place at an amusement park, and I think amusement park summertime, things like that. It is about a group of people who are taken to this amusement park and basically told that they are playing a very intense game of hide and seek. And whoever ends up surviving at the end of it ends up winning a ton of money. And we follow a character who is entered into this because her family is very much in debt. And she thinks she's really great at hiding. She'll be able to do this, but she realizes pretty quickly hiding isn't going to be what saves her. She's going to have to actually do something about what's going on. There have been a ton of mixed reviews coming in about this, so I'm really intrigued. It seems to be very polarizing. Like, you either really love it or you really hate it. So I'm nervous, but I'm so excited. I love things that take place at amusement parks. One of my all-time favorite books is an amusement park thriller by Neil Shusterman, Full Tilt. I read that at a pretty young age and just solidified. And it seems like why wouldn't you have more thrillers at amusement park? Just really lacking in that.
I was just inspired to recommend another one-word title movie, and that is also a movie that takes place in an amusement park over the summer called Adventureland.
Oh, yes.
I recently watched this after putting it off for years, because when I worked briefly at Blockbuster Video, the preview for this movie played incessantly all day long, and I was like, I'm never going to watch this movie because I hate listening to these clips so much. But this movie, which stars Kristen Stewart, Jesse Eisenberg, Ryan Reynolds, Martin Starr, a bunch of other people you recognize from those type of movies, is so sweet and smart about relationships, just getting out of high school, you're getting ready to go to college, you're not sure what you're doing with your life, drudgery of working at an amusement park over the summer and bonding with those people. It's just so poignant for anyone who's, had a summer job, basically. The type of movie that's not made anymore, it's kind of like an adult movie for that's not like a sex comedy.
Yeah.
It's marketed as a sex comedy, but it's really not.
Great. Yellow on the cover. Okay, well, I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I raved about Emily Henry before, and I'm going to do it again. This was her, I believe, her debut, and it was absolutely fantastic. Despite the title of it called Beach Read, not really anything happens at the beach other than the fact that she goes to live into the house. Her father has passed away, and they find out that her father actually owned this house and was like living a second life. And so she goes there to go sort through his things, but also come to terms with the fact that her father had a second life. So she is kind of upset. She has to move to this house and live in this house, but she is also an author, and she's in a bit of a writer's block. She is a romance writer, and she ends up finding out that the person living beside her is also an author, and he's a literary fiction author. And they make a pact that they are going to switch genres. He has to write the romance and she has to write the literary fiction. And they have to kind of give each other tips and show each other how to write those things kind of deal. But it's really great because it talks about how she writes technically women's literature, and it has a really fantastic conversation between the two of them about how women's literature isn't any different than literary fiction other than the fact that someone decided to slap women's on it, basically. And it's fantastic because so many people, even the publishing industry in and of itself, really look down on romance and women's literature, and how it's not that it's easier to write, it's just that society has decided that it seems easier. So it's really great, but of course along the way, the two of them, after spending so much time together, fall for each other type deal. But again, it's not, Emily Henry writes books that aren't just solely focused on the romance of the story. It really is about the personal development of the characters and dealing with a lot of family dynamics around them as well. And I don't know anyone who has hated this book. Everyone that I've read has absolutely enjoyed it. I know people who don't even read romance who have loved this book.
Yellow on the cover. For me, that was the novella Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by LaRocca.
Does it have yellow on the cover?
Yeah, there's a shirt on the person in the cover. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that book?
I had a really hard time with the ending of the book.
Well, see, my issues were in the beginning of the book, so that's interesting.
Okay. I love the short story, or excuse me, the novella is comprised of text message or IM exchanges.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the whole time you're just saying, no, don't do that. No, please, no. Have you ever been on the internet before? Basically, it's an IM exchange between two ostensibly lonely women and their relationship that evolves and devolves.
And is highly disturbing.
Highly disturbing.
Yes, it is about desperate measures.
Mm-hmm.
The things that you will do in desperation
Yes.
to connect with someone else.
Right.
On top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say, I read this book and I had a stomach ache after reading this book,
Yes.
and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
It is up there with one of the most disturbing books I've read of all time.
Oh my God.
And it's not even 100 pages,
Yeah.
is it?
Right. Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how well the story is conveyed,
Mm-hmm.
given that it is only told in instant messages.
You completely understand the spaces in between the IMs,
Mhm.
where you see where each person is coming from, and how things slowly start to turn into one person maybe taking advantage of the other, and the whole time you're just saying,
Oh no.
just stop.
Oh no.
You know, turn off the internet.
I read this on a plane, and I was
Oh,
thinking the
God.
person beside me was gonna think I was insane if they read anything on the pages.
Yeah, it was good because I was able to get up and take a walk outside afterwards.
Yeah, definitely not something you want to read when you are in a bad kind of place.
Yeah.
But if you are into just stories that will continue to shock you,
Mm-hmm.
And just stories that are unlike anything you've ever read before, you want to try something new. What's that yellow on the cover?
saw a movie not too long ago called Cheap Thrill starring Pat Healy, and it's about escalating loyalty tests and the inherent perversion of the person who's issuing the loyalty tests.
Mm.
And I thought this was similar, but not as humorous. This is kind of like the bare bones of that.
Did you see there's going to be, I think it's like a sequel to Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Or something along the lines. You'll have to look it up.
I can see it as a musical.
Oh, what? Okay, Shane. Right. On to the last one for us. We have By a Person of Color.
Go ahead, Abby.
All right. I have, this is brand new, Clarabelle Ortega. She does a lot of middle grade and YA. But she just came out with a new one called Witchlings. And this is kind of a new magical school type story it's the new Harry Potter, basically. It's a Harry Potter for a new generation. But it follows a group of girls who have to take a test in order to get into a coven and really come full force into their magic. The problem is, if you fail the test, you are known as a spare. And we follow a main character who finds out that she has failed the test and she is known as a spare. So her and several other spares try to get together to make a coven, but things go horribly wrong. And they have to try to find a way to keep their magic because they will lose it over time. But it is, I believe it is YA. But I'm super excited about it because it's like a new version of Harry Potter to really fit in with a lot of kids seeking that out today. So pretty excited. Her writing is really fun. I've read some other things by her before, and the way she writes families and friendships is fantastic. So I'm really excited about this. The author or the publisher sent me a PR package. It was really cute. It came with a sweatshirt and some gummies and a friendship bracelet.
Nice.
I was like, this is really cute.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're talking about you. Send us stuff. I do have one for this.
You do? Awesome.
Well, I'm just going to use one author.
Mm-hmm.
Colson Whitehead,
Mm-hmm.
the Nickel Boys, and the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm. Was he anything new coming out?
I don't know.
It's been a while.
I know I haven't heard of
Yeah.
anything. Not recently.
Yeah.
Coming out in the
It's been a
fall.
while.
I haven't heard.
Called Mississippi Masala. This is directed by Mira Nair. Criterion just put out this cult classic. It's from 1991, but it's been made available for the first time in a wide release, so people probably are familiar with it. They've probably seen the still images of the people in it because it stars a young and smoking hot Denzel Washington
Oh.
and one of my favorite actresses, Sarita Chowdhury, because you've mostly probably seen her as an older woman. She was the mom in Green Knight. She was Saul's wife in Homeland, the Homeland series. The both of them paired up is just too hot for the screen, basically. It's a romantic film that deals with a lot of inherent prejudices in families looking at a multicultural relationship. It's also a great summer movie and the kind that Hollywood just isn't making anymore. It is a movie that has a lot of color and vibrancy, both in its palette, but also in its exploration of culture.
So I'm going to talk about some reads that are coming out, like in August, September, and October. Well, so
These on your holds list.
Yes.
Request them.
yes, The Passenger by Cormac McCarthy. The Passenger is a story of a salvage diver haunted by loss or fraud of the watery deep.
Can you not read your handwriting?
Pursuit for conspiracy beyond.
You sound like you're just
Well,
finding out.
usually I type this. Usually I type this. Beyond his understanding and longing for a death he cannot reconcile with God.
Sounds like Cormac McCarthy.
Okay, so I heard about this from my son, who's a huge Cormac McCarthy fan.
Mm-hmm.
He named his son Cormac. So there you have it. So this has been a big deal. He's coming out with another one right after that.
Oh,
Yeah. So.
wow.
Uh-huh. And I have some other ones. The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. Kipp by Sara Brunsvold. And also, I just have a list of these. I sent these to our cataloging department so they could put them in. Our Missing Hearts by Celeste. The Liberation Day by George Saunders. Gods of Want by K-Ming Chang. That's nonfiction. The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. And she wrote Hamnet.
That is it for another episode of Let's Get Lit. Hopefully you can fill out your bingo points, and we will see you in the library and at our events. And thank you for watching. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Let's Get Lit. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. If you have any questions, suggestions, or want recommendations, please contact us either in the comments section, by giving us a call, or by emailing us at letsgetlit@AlleghenyCountyLibrary.info.